Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and friends in the United Arab Emirates and the Middle East, and to our friends and colleagues in the United States, good morning. My name is Danny Seabright. I'm the president of the US-UAE Business Council, and we're honored today to present a webinar on the status of the UAE's retail sector and the bounce back that is occurring as a result of COVID-19 and COVID-19 relief measures. We're honored to have three distinguished guests from representing the UAE retail sector today. Mr. Ashok Khanna, Chief Executive Officer of Al-Futain Motors and the Al-Futain Group. Mr. Fawad Sharif, Managing Director of UAE Shopping Malls at Majid Al-Futain Properties. Mr. Phil Showering, Chief Operating Officer at Mohabbi Logistics, which also has quite an extensive retail business as also. I'd like to also point out that today we have representatives from the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism, Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the U.S. Commercial Service, the Consulate General, U.S. Consulate General in Dubai, UAE Consulate General in New York, the UAE Embassy in Washington, D.C., and the UAE Embassy in London. So welcome to all of our government guests today as well. I'd like to ask Mr. Ashok Khanna to start. What we'll do is we'll do a 5-minute or so overview by each of our distinguished panelists and let them have the chance to give an update on how they see the UAE retail sector bouncing back, how they see opportunities going ahead, and maybe some opportunities or places where American companies might partner as well to help in the rebound of the sector as it comes back from COVID. I would also like to point out that we'll do questions and answers from the audience. If you could just use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen and put any questions into the queue, I'll be happy to address them. We are videotaping or taping this session live, and we will be sending it out later today to everyone who's participated, everyone who registered but couldn't participate, and anyone else on our website who's interested in participating. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ashok Khanna, Chief Executive Officer of Al-Futain Motors. Ashok is at the helm of a 3,000-person company that manages leading automotive brands across the UAE. Importantly, Ashok is also part of the team of the Al-Futain team that has retail and distribution of all sorts of products beyond vehicles and motors in the UAE for sure. Under his stewardship, however, Al-Futain Motors has won many coveted awards and accolades from Ford, Jaguar, Land Rover, Maserati, and Ferrari. And we're really delighted that Ashok could be with us today. Ford is one of our most important members on this vertical in this sector, and Al-Futain Motors is a close partner with Ford Motor Company. So Ashok, over to you, please.
Thank you, Danny. Good evening. I'm Ashok Khanna, Chief Executive, Al-Futain Motors, not Al-Futain Group. So my association is with the automotive part of the group. So Al-Futain Motors came into existence over 35 years ago, and I've been with the organization for more than 3 decades. It is one of UAE's leading automobile dealerships, representing brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Jaguar, Land Rover, Ferrari, and Maserati. Al-Futain Motors, as Danny said, has a history of excellence, and over the years, we have won various awards and accolades from our principals for excellence in sales and customer service. Some of the more recent ones include the 2019 Chairman's Award from Ford and the 2019 Importer of the Year, MEA region from Ferrari. In our view, what sets us apart is the overall experience that we provide our customers with, encompassing our teams, our services, our facilities, and the brands that we represent. Whilst proud of our heritage and achievements today, we are extremely future-focused as we work with our manufacturing partners and take existing and new customers with us on our digital journey, ensuring our business continues to thrive in an ever-changing world. COVID, as we all know, came with its share of challenges and learning. One challenge that we faced was around engaging with customers when showrooms and workshops were closed or operating with reduced capacity. With our digital touchpoints, we were able to keep the dialogue going. COVID-19 has been a catalyst for the automotive industry and for our business to accelerate digital initiatives that were already underway. Even before the pandemic began, we had a heavy focus on expanding our digital reach with our e-commerce platforms, improvised apps, live chats, and a growing number of social followers. Once the pandemic hit, these held us in good stead. Steps we took to bring product and services to the customers have the potential of becoming a permanent feature of how we operate, dealing with customers where they want, how they want, and when they want. Our website and other digital tools are increasingly becoming the main element of the customer purchase journey, from initial searches to vehicle selection through to financing, payment, and delivery. Another area of concern for us was on ensuring the utmost safety of our customers and team members. This has been and will remain an area of zero compromise for us. The UAE government provided clear daily updates on the rules during the pandemic. That was very helpful for us. We were in lockstep with these regulations and advisories, ensuring 100% compliance in all aspects. The business already had a solid risk management framework, including ISO certifications and other HSE disciplines. This has been further enhanced through the lessons learned during the pandemic. We have mastered work from home best practices and office rotations. Training is an area of priority for us, and we largely transitioned from classroom training to online training. During this period, we learned a lot and refocused on what we should be doing more of. We agree with what Benjamin Franklin said: out of adversity comes opportunity. Thank you.
Ashok, thank you very much. And I especially, given what's happening in the United States today, I really appreciate the reference to Benjamin Franklin for sure. Before I go to Fawad, I'm going to ask you one quick question. I'm coming to the UAE for the first time in a number of months this weekend for business. When I show up at the airport and I wanted to buy a Ford vehicle to sort of use while I was there, or to keep in stock for the business council, can I do it all virtually on an app at the moment to buy a Ford car from Al-Tire?
So I could, to answer your question, it baffles me why you need to do that when you arrive in the UAE. You can do it right now while you're over here at this conference. Yes, you can. To answer your question.
So I can buy my Ford vehicle on the app here in the US before I even arrive?
Absolutely. And tell us where you want to deliver.
And where I want it delivered, and it'll be wonderful. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. If we could pivot, please, to Mr. Fawad Sharif, Managing Director of UAE Shopping Malls at Majid Al-Futain Properties. In his role, Fawad is responsible for devising long-term operational strategies to ensure the growth and success of all shopping mall business unit assets in the UAE. Fawad joined Majid Al-Futain in 2004. He has since become an invaluable asset and a prime example of Emirati nationals who have grown within and shaped Majid Al-Futain Properties. Fawad, we could not be more delighted to have you with us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. Highly appreciate it. Regarding the question which you have asked actually in the beginning, I mean, in regards to the pandemic, before that, I would like to share with you some, information about the company I'm working for. We, as Majid Al-Futain, run 27 shopping malls in the Middle East and North Africa. And we are also managing Carrefour, the Vox Cinema, Magic Planet, and we are the team who built the ski slope in the desert, and which had been like the talk of the world since that time. For us, we have still some projects in the pipeline. Back to your question about the COVID and the impact, we are planning to open a new mall next year, actually. During the COVID time, also we had an opportunity to open a food central in city center Deira, which is our first shopping mall. We've been in this business for the last 25 years, and we've been growing. We've started with one mall, as I mentioned, and today we have 27 malls, and plus we have few malls in the pipeline, which is city center Zahiya, and we have another mall next year also, the following year, sorry, in Oman, in Muscat, which is Mall of Oman. So still we're moving. And how did we come back? Maybe this is a question we can answer later on in depth. But for us, the coming back, it was a great story where we have collaborated with the government, and we've worked very closely with the government of the United Arab Emirates. And we came back to the business gradually, where we've started 30%, then 50%. Then when we've realized that things are under control, we went 100% actually. So yeah, I'm delighted and excited to be part of this discussion panel. And thank you.
Thanks so much, Fawad. I'm going to ask you a quick question too before I go to Phil. When I land in Dubai Airport on Saturday, and I get to the hotel and get a shower and get cleaned up, if I want something to do in the afternoon, will I be able to go walk around the mall and do some shopping? Everything's open or not?
100% actually, everything is open. And I mean, look, the process is in place. So we're talking about thermal cameras. You need to wear your mask. And if you don't have your mask, we have them on each entrance of the mall. So we just make your life easy. We don't want you to drive back all the way home. So, I mean, like we have taken the measures. During the COVID, we've learned a lot, and we have done things which we have never thought of in our entire, I mean, like career. Especially me, I've been in this business for the last 16 years in the shopping mall business. I came across situations which I've never been through previously. So lots of learning, lots of, improvement on how you can do business differently. So digital, accelerating the digital, we had it in the agenda, for example, but we're accelerating it since this COVID came in. So we have lots of information to share, actually. We'll share them later on, definitely.
Outstanding. We'll get to that in the Q&A for sure. I just, I'm sorry to, I'm a little nervous about my first trip here. I usually am there twice a month, and this is my first trip since February. So I'm just a little nervous about how different it's going to be or how much the same it's going to be. So thank you for indulging me in answering that question. If we could turn, please, to Phil Showering, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Mohabbi Logistics. Phil, great to see you. Mohabbi's been a long time partner of the US-UAE Business Council since the beginning, since the founding of the council in 2008. And Mohammed Mohabbi is a close friend. So thank you for being with us today and representing Mohabbi. In your role, you have the responsibility for developing and implementing strategic growth plans, both in Dubai and the greater GCC. You bring more than 25 years of experience in the logistics and supply chain industry to Mohabbi Logistics. And Phil, for the audience, has started his career by managing supply chains across the UK and Europe for companies such as Asda, Walmart, Tibbett & Britton, and Kuhn & Nagel. Phil, the floor is yours, and we're so grateful for you to be with us this afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Danny. It's really a privilege to represent Mohabbi Logistics, part of an 85-year-old family Emirati company with very diverse interests. So we have supermarkets, brand representation, and we do many other things for many FMCG companies, fast service restaurants. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Logistics Division. And really what we're about we are a collaborative, connected solutions provider, working with some of the largest global brands to bring those global qualities to the Middle East and beyond. And I think what you talked about COVID. So what's COVID meant for us? It's meant business is normal, and it's meant business has been very good because we've had very clear, decisive leadership from the government. So I'm from the UK. Perhaps we could say we didn't have the clearest, decisive government in the UK. Here is very different, Danny. When you come to visit, you have superb compliance. Yeah, the food that you will eat, that you will buy at Carrefour. Yeah, it has been taken care of all the way through the supply chain. Yeah, it's clearly set out. It is availability is extremely high, and everything to secure the health of the nation is being done and being directed from the very top, and all of us as family and individuals have all bought into that. Yeah, so and what Mohabbi have done. So for lots of people who were sat at home, people that could work remotely, we got to work remotely. But you still need your food to buy at Carrefour. You still need your parts on your shelf. Excuse me. You still need your hair dye. You still need to buy your fast food. And I think what we've seen is optimism, the optimism we see, and the growth and adaptation of people. So we've always had contingency plans. The largest international companies, you had contingency plans, and they worked really well, and we adapted really well, and the people were flexible, and the government was flexible. And I think it is about, I see the glass is half full, and going forward, the opportunity for the companies that are here with consolidation, and for new entrants who want to bring their products here. I think it's an amazing opportunity, whether you are in the car business, you're in the shopping mall business, you're in the retail business. The Middle East will rebound first. And that's it, really.
Bill, thank you very much. We're going to dive into some specific questions in each of your sub verticals or sectors of the retail sector, if you will. But first, I want to ask each of you a broad, general question about COVID. And if you could just, Ashok, Fawad, and then Phil, just sort of give me, what was the biggest surprise when COVID hit? And it started, I mean, I was there in January and February, and I started seeing the Chinese visitors to Arab Health wearing the mask there, and more, across Arab Health in January. To me, that was a sign that something was coming. Then February came, I was there again, and I saw more and more people being careful. But then it hit the world in March, and everything shut down. What was the biggest thing that sort of caught you off guard, or that you didn't see coming, or that you had to think about how to respond to, that came out of what happened from March and April onward? And I'll start with you, Ashok, and then go to Fawad and Phil.
So when it comes to COVID, I think all of us dealt with a lot of uncertainty. We didn't know what was coming our way. But here I must say that the UAE government reacted so quickly to the introduction of COVID restrictions, and then adapting them as the picture evolved. That was really good for us. So despite the uncertainty, we had a little bit, we felt we had a game plan over here. So there were clear daily updates on the rules. There was increased testing, and there was stringent safety regulations, including restrictions on social gathering, distancing, etc. So the outcome of which is that the active cases right now stand at below 4,000, which I think is kudos to the government and the people of the UAE. The other surprise for us was that once the economy started opening up, we did see a resurgence. We saw a lot of people coming back into the showrooms. Our workshops currently are at pre-COVID levels. So that was a good sign for us as well. And the trajectory has definitely been upward. So I won't say that was a surprise, but that was a good indication of what was happening for us. And yeah, I'd say that the start of it was a big surprise. There was a lot of high element of uncertainty and everything. And then the recovery, I can tell you for 2021, we are actually projecting a growth over 2020. So that itself has been a very good recovery for us. So that's it from me.
Yeah, Ashok, that's wonderful and fascinating, because I'm gonna summarize what you just said this way. You said you were surprised at how well the UAE government responded, and that it was so professional, and that it was so forward-leaning and so organized. I can tell you, from being in the United States and my friends in Britain and my friends in other parts of the world, we were surprised how poorly was the government response. So hats off to all of you in the UAE, and to the wise leadership there that you live under, for sure. Fawad, what surprised you?
And I mean, before I share what surprised me, actually, I would like to go back to the point which Phil mentioned. I mean, companies are always ready for surprises. So definitely we had always a business continuity plan for the malls. Like if something happened, how we gonna continue our business. and sorry, on the part of like the surprise, as I told you, I've been in this industry for the last 16 years. We've traded the malls actually 24 hours, but we never came across a situation where we will shut down the malls. So that was actually a big surprise for me. Although we've seen it coming because the way the pandemic was going, actually, we knew that. And as I told you, even before the pandemic, we had a plan. On top of that, I mean, back to your point about the success of the United Arab Emirates government and containing and controlling and coming back to life, actually, one of the secrets was that the government of the United Arab Emirates worked very closely with the private sector, because the key people are in the private sector and they know the business, and always the government is there to serve the community. So the collaboration, I mean, between us and all government entities, we used to have meetings on a daily basis with the police, with the municipality, with the economic department, where we used to discuss how can we go back to the normal life. So going back gradually was one of the decisions which was made collectively. So we used to give feedback, and there's a committee where they make decisions on the way forward for the government and for the public, I mean. So I think the collaboration played an important role in getting life back to normal in the United Arab Emirates.
Thank you. Thank you, Fawad. Phil, something that surprised you?
I think it was actually the speed with which we all adapted. I think it was the speed. Maybe it came from clear direction. So we all wore a mask, and at times we wore gloves, and we saw huge uplifts in food volumes, in Carrefour, supermarkets. You know, people were buying more and we were delivering more, but everyone adapted. The flexibility and what we saw with people actually working together, truly working together for the common good. So that everyone, no food shortages, nothing missing from the shelf. You still wanted to order from your fast service restaurant, you could. You still wanted to buy any product, you could. You could still buy your cars as well. You know, it was basically an adapted business as normal, but I was very, very surprised with how fast all of us, and we truly collaboratively worked together, whether it, as Fawad said, whether it was government, police, all of us who are normally adversaries, even third-party logistics companies, work together to get the job done. I think that's what the UAE is about union, is about compromise, and that is what will help all of us move forward together, collaboration.
You are on mute. Danny, you're on mute.
Thank you so much. Before we move forward, Phil, on to some of the other questions, Mohabbi, while it has retail outlets, its mainstay of its business is logistics. Did the pandemic, were there surprises in the logistics chain, the ports, the airlines? I mean, I know talking with Emirates and Etihad, how quickly they adapted to help with logistics and product and moving product. Were there any big surprises there for you as a logistics chain company?
Absolutely. So there were huge increases in volume. And what also we supply manufactured, and we manage a lot of finished product from raw materials, is made locally, and also international brands that go into the local market. So what we saw was people wanting to lift their stock levels because they saw consumption, and we saw potentially another period where there might be a complete shutdown. So what we did is people worked extra hours, we drafted extra people in, people took more deliveries, just the same as everyone did together. Yeah, people worked together, and we got special permits. So the permitting to go into areas of Abu Dhabi, or when you had a sanitization period. So between certain times, most people didn't move around. that actually made it a lot easier for us to do night deliveries to Carrefours. Imagine Al-Futain malls. They're the biggest retailer in the region. It was actually much better for us. And they, you know, everyone was just very, very flexible. I think that's been the signature of COVID.
So again, underscoring the close collaboration with the government at the emirate and the national level to both promote safety, but also to expedite transfer and movement of goods and services. Very, very important for sure. Ashok, let's talk a little bit about vehicles with Al-Tire. I'm just going to give you 3 or 4 questions here. You can sort of, I'd like to come back to all of you on digital, but in general, how does Al-Tire see opportunities going forward as a result of COVID? What do you see as the trajectory for your vehicle sales going forward as in this post-COVID environment? And if I could say, how are people buying? What new tools are people using to buy their cars on the digital space, as we talked about early on? What's the consumer want from you in the way he or she buys a car, buys a vehicle, buys their Ford car, different from the way it might have been in the past, the customer interaction experience, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about that for us, Ashok?
Sure, Danny. Let me speak a little bit about that. So Al-Tire Motors' online and social media presence is a key, if not the main part, of the customer purchase cycle, even more so after the pandemic hit. Customers like you who are arriving into the UAE as well, and have been purchasing vehicles online, and we expect the volumes through this channel to steadily increase. Our app allows customers to access our products and services instantly and directly, as well as communicate with them more effectively. Live chats and social tools are in place and working effectively to expanding the choices customers have in how they want to communicate with us, as well as in increasing the speed in which we are able to respond back to them. So the above tools are benefiting our existing business model and our customers' experience with us, increasing retention of existing customers, besides attracting new ones as well. We've also seen a shift in customer demand for more flexible mobility solutions, including leasing, PCP, which is personal contract purchase, and short and medium-term rentals. So talking about our opportunities during this time, our digital capabilities have definitely grown during this period. COVID has actually acted as a catalyst to accelerate our digital initiatives, which were already underway. These allow customers to transact in the ways they want with high levels of confidence and safety. So basically, you know, our motto has become, we'll transact with you the way you want, where you want, when you want. So enhancements in these areas has also the opportunity to generate a new set of customers for us. And I've already spoken about vehicle leasing and PCP, which is, we refined our offerings over there. And generally what we noticed during the pandemic, we've become more efficient in the way we work, leveraging technology to a greater extent than what we were currently doing. That's been beneficial in whatever we do. So yeah, these were some of the points that I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. I'm going to ask Fawad a similar question, but Fawad, I'm going to say to you the following. In the United States, shopping malls are beginning to shut down around the country and go bankrupt. In my small town in Gettysburg, where I spend a majority of my time part-time during COVID, our local shopping mall just declared bankruptcy last week and is going to shut down. And this is happening across the United States. Yet, what Majid Al-Futain is doing is reinstilling confidence in the market so that people feel comfortable and safe and secure coming back to the mall. So talk about that a little bit and talk about how that affects your business plans for the future. And if you want to weave in any advice you might have for American mall operators going forward into your response, please feel free to do so. And then from the audience, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to glom on. We have a question asking you if you are interested in partnering and expanding your experiences in places like the US, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and or any opportunities that you're looking for in that regard going forward. So put that question aside after the main one, please.
So back to the first question, which was about, remind me. You're on mute.
Sorry. About
Yeah.
your experience of how you're going forward,
Yeah.
making
Okay.
the
Sure.
malls,
Sure.
making the malls, people feel safe to return to the mall.
Sure, sure. I mean, look, for us, the main objective for us during this pandemic actually to work together with the tenants, because the relation is about partnership. During the pandemic or the lockdown, for example, we've suspended our rents. Okay, and we had a rent relief plan also on top of that. So these are the type of discussion we've started with our tenants. On top of that, we have been listening to our tenants and working with them very closely on the payment plans, because we know that there is no liquidity in the market, and we need to work with them to make them have a sustainable business. And by the time we move forward and this pandemic is over, we just work together and continue the journey. In regards to your other question, the advice, honestly speaking, I'm not in a position to advise people in the US. My experience is very humble, but honestly speaking, it's about working together. It's about partnership. When you believe that this business is about partnership, you're going to succeed. When you believe in silo doing things, you will never succeed. So that's the way, and that's the approach we've been following. Actually, we want to work very closely with our tenants during COVID, pre-COVID, after the COVID. I mean, that's the plan for us. And as I told you, we're expanding and we're expecting more GLA, because we believe that there is a potential in the United Arab Emirates overall. So that's why we've been expanding. And we don't actually build malls randomly. We do them in a scientific way. We just go study the market and study the PTA, the STA, and understand every element of that market. Then we go and expand our malls or develop new malls. So that's the approach. Actually, we're having anything like between neighborhood and community mall all the way to like super regional malls. So we have small malls, and we have something which is like at the size of Mall of the Emirates, which is around more than 250,000 GLA square meter.
I got it. Now to Mr. Philip Harding's question that I asked at the end, are you looking at any particular foreign markets like the US, Latin America, or the Caribbean at the moment? Or are you staying in the greater GCC framework for the moment?
I mean, for the time being, our focus is in the Middle East and North Africa. Actually, this is the area where we've been like investing in. But we are very open to listen to any opportunity. But that's mainly the focus of our business. The potential is there, and the focus is there, and we're willing to listen to any opportunity anywhere in the world. There's no harm in like opening the discussion channels.
Thank you. Before we leave and go to Phil, I want to ask you to also touch on the digital experience, because it's so critical right now. If you could give us a little bit of an overview of things that Majid Al-Futain has implemented new in the last 6 or 9 months, things that you might have in the pipeline for the future. What can the customer expect on the retail digital experience to come?
I mean, the digital have been always in the agenda of Majid Al-Futain, and it has been in the top of the agenda of Majid Al-Futain actually. The good thing is about the pandemic, that the pandemic came in and accelerated everything for us. So during the lockdown, we came up with a few initiatives, and we worked with the tenants very closely. And I'm talking about 3 like platforms which we have created for our tenants to benefit from during the lockdown, and during the time where people were like a bit conservative and visiting the malls. So we came up with the click and collect marketplace and trends at your doorsteps. Trends at your doorsteps actually is a partnership with the luxury brands, where we take the requests of the tenants through the luxury brands and drop them to their homes. So we had like different platform for our tenants, just to make sure that they're doing business even during the lockdown period. So the brick and mortar is there, and the omni-channel is there, and we are working towards both actually.
Thank you. We have some friends and close colleagues on the line. Sammy Caiello from Morgan Stanley, representing the banking industry, finance industry, if you will. Visa, MasterCard, and American Express are all our members at the Business Council, and we talk to them, the banking and the credit card industry, if you will, about how they help facilitate retail going forward. Any thoughts or ideas about how you can more closely collaborate with those verticals and sectors to give the customer yet a more seamless option or response than they have already, offering than they have already?
I mean, the technology is playing an important role actually when it comes to the banking sector. So today, the financial entities are unlike few years back, and they've been improving on a daily basis. For us today, we've seen actually, and we've experienced that the ATM machines are vanishing from the shopping malls gradually. So you won't find a number of ATM machines you used to see them 2-3 years back. So that's why on the entrances of the mall, we used to have these ATMs machines, and now we're changing the whole space into other services where people can benefit from them. So through your phone today, you can pay your bill, and it's easy. So cash is not an important element today. How can we work with them? We've been working with them actually very closely. And for us to enhance the customer experience, we would be willing to work more closely and see more advanced initiatives from their side. And we are very open actually in this regards.
Thank you. We'll go to Phil, and I want to ask Phil a couple questions, if I may, about his vertical and sector. Phil, anything else you want to say on the impact of the pandemic as a fast-moving consumer goods company for your retail side, and anything that you want to comment on that? Some people in attendance also today may not know that Mohabbi is a supplier to one of the world's largest fast food restaurant chains, and any challenges you faced in the food vertical during the pandemic. And then if you would say a few words about partnerships for the future, especially with American companies, as Mohabbi charts its future in the post-pandemic world. How can some of my American members and companies that are interested get more involved and learn more about how they can partner with you?
Yeah, I think there have been significant changes in the FMCG businesses where they have opened more e-com businesses. So some of the actual FMCG businesses are going direct to home from scratch, and also supermarket chains. So during the pandemic, we completely started from scratch, developed and implemented solutions that were effectively direct from manufacturer or brand principle, delivered directly to home, food products across all temperature bands. And I think to touch on one of your points about transactions, electronic transactions, what we also saw was the market was always very traditionally cash on delivery. It was a cash culture. What we saw was complete change to no problem. People will pay by credit, debit, and they'll prepay things. So we've seen a quantum change in those elements. And also some of the initiatives that Fawad mentioned, where we had a click and collect and also pre-selected in store. So, you know, you have options that we've been trying to develop for many years. I think in 5 years, the FMCG businesses push forward with all of those, and coverage-wise, everywhere was coveraged and systemized. I think the brand principals want to own those interfaces, and they still do. As regard other segments, so we do work with many fast service, practically every global brand, particularly the US brand. We help to manage their goods in the UAE and actually beyond. And we've also seen these companies adapt. They've adapted by all the personal safety equipment, the extra processes and inspections, the quality insurance, and then also the volume is moving in a different way. So they are working with aggregators. So far more, rather than you walk into your favorite burger restaurant and you pick it up, here it is delivered by an aggregator, by a Talabat, by a Kareem, by whoever. And that business has grown exponentially and continues to grow. We have a number of opportunities. You talked about opportunities. So we had brands that really were only remote brands from Europe, US, that operated through the major internet brands. Now they are coming direct to the UAE. So they will have their own presence. So they will obtain a license, which I'm sure Danny and your team, you can help with obtaining the necessary licenses. And you can manage your brand. You can sell your brand as you wish. You work with a fulfillment partner, and the cost to enter, I don't think there's been a better time to enter. So what I foresee is opportunity. If you own a brand, whether that is food brand, whether that is your own label, you can set up on an e-commerce platform. You can work with a number of partners, and your brand can start in the UAE as one of the biggest consumers, and you can spread out throughout the GCC. And I think that is something. I see the positives because the internet penetration here has increased so significantly, and also the routes to market. And I think there are some particular opportunities for food service type brands and own label brands, where you have a very strong brand in the US, and we have requirements here. You may choose to still have your shopping mall or high street presence, but you also may wish to have a larger part hosted via the internet, and that direct relationship with your end customer. And I think that's where we've seen the very big changes and the opportunities for people to come. There are far more people here now.
Thank you, Phil. The UAE has under review a whole lot of new policy law, if you will, with regard to data protection and data privacy for individuals. Some has been promulgated early. Some will be coming out at the end of the year. All of you have spoken in one way or another on the new reliance on contactless payment, using the internet, using capturing customer data. Is there a sense in your customer base and with your organizations that's safe from a cyber attack standpoint? Do you see high confidence going forward, or do you feel that all of the right measures are being taken to protect and to empower even more growth in this way? Fawad, you, and then Ashok, and then back to Phil.
I mean, in my view, this is a given thing, actually, protecting the data. But let me tell you one more thing, actually. People, they are fully aware about what type of data they're sharing today, because today with the social media and the smartphones, I mean, like everybody's exposed to the public and to the entire life. I mean, but definitely there is privacy. There are some information we always keep to ourselves. And for us, the way we protect our own data, be it the company data, we take into consideration the same element, or we protect the data of the consumers the same way, actually. So for us, it's a top priority, but definitely we're confident because we have been working very closely with the authorities and we know what's happening actually behind the scene. So the protection is there. It's a top priority, and it will, it will remain as a top priority. So the information of people, individuals will always remain protected.
Ashok, over to you.
So protection of customer data has always been a priority and a prerequisite of any system choices that we have made. The 2018 adoption by the European Union of the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, acted as a catalyst for us to further strengthen this area, including how we manage our CRM data. So in addition, we also have a very strong IT governance framework and have invested heavily in IT security tools and infrastructure. So I would say we are compliant, and customers should feel safe and confident that their information is secure with us and within the permissions that they've granted. Thanks.
Thank you. Phil, you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, I just think, we do live in a very safe society. And I think, perhaps different from the US. So, we share our details. We have individual IDs that track what we do, and our cards are linked to our IDs. So I think there's a lot more security than perhaps if I was ghosting someone in my home country in the UK. Probably a lot easier to create an identity and produce a trail in Europe than it is within the Middle East. I think all the data safety locations and protocols here are world class, and we are at the forefront. They're looking at new encryption technology, and the one-time PIN code is a lot easier than I have banking facilities in Europe and one or two in the US. They're a lot simpler here, and the validation process, which customers, Carrefour, for instance, they validate and they look and they trace. So I think you're much more secure in the, if you like, the data supply chain as well. So yeah, please come and work with us.
All right, great. As we have a few minutes left here, I want to take one or two more questions from the audience. I'm going to combine them if you don't mind. And the first one is for Phil and for Fawad. What barriers do you foresee for new product entrants into the Middle East, and what initiatives do each of your companies have in place to help break those barriers down in the future? And then also for Fawad, since tourists have not returned, when will normal return? and how rentals are back to normal in Majid Al-Futain? We are still performing 50% LFL. The statement is being made, relief was limited and not enough. Payment plan can be combined with limited relief offered to us. Hope we can get better assistance from long-term tenants. I'll let you talk about that one a little bit on your own, but maybe the first one, what are some thoughts about breaking down any remaining barriers to new entrants to the market for the three of you?
Perhaps I could take that one first, Danny, if you don't mind. I think there's never been a greater opportunity. So the barriers have never been lower. They've never been as opportune a moment to bring your brand, believe in your brand, and if you want to try first, try it on the net, a pure net hosted facility. Yeah, so establish it through the net first. If you're net, because you will always have shopping mall sales here. So if you're a retailer, you must be in a shopping mall. But if you want to try an e-fulfillment first. Try something different. Yeah, believe in your brand, the payment systems, the companies that are here to facilitate you, your business council, and you can talk to people that have already done it and are doing it. Yeah, or if you want virtual kitchens, so new trends. So if you want to be a virtual FSR brand, you can have virtual kitchens and you can have a takeaway service to home. If you are a retailer, you can be a virtual online retailer for your particular product set. You may later, and I'm sure you will always go to a shopping mall. Yeah, you will always take, whether you are a fast service restaurant or you are a store selling whatever product, you need to be successful. You need to have presence because people like to touch it and feel it here. Very particular, but barriers have never been lower, and the opportunity has never been bigger, never been greater.
Fawad, do you want to comment?
I mean, for me, the United Arab Emirates have been always an open market for investment. So we always welcome actually all investors. And that's why we've been creating, I mean, the best platform for all the investors to come and to invest in the United Arab Emirates. I mean, during COVID, the doors will always remain open. But let me tell you something, actually, what's happening during COVID also, that the strong business players will survive and will continue. And there are some people who are like a bit weak and they didn't plan and they didn't have a contingency plan. They won't survive and they won't continue, I mean, towards the end of this pandemic. On top of that, what we have realized also at a local level, that we have seen lots of homegrown concept which came to the market, which they came to the market, and they have taken this opportunity of the COVID, and they have opened some branches with us in our malls. So when I refer to the Food Central in City Center there, we do have some local brands there, for example, which are like homegrown concepts. And when I talk about other malls, we always like had new businesses. And let me tell you something, these homegrown concepts today, they are the talk of the town. They're doing great. They're becoming very popular. So, I mean, that saying that, it does not mean that we will still like not allow other businesses. We are open and we would love to see new brands coming to the market. And the platform is ready for all the investors to come to the United Arab Emirates.
So what I heard you say, Fawad, is and Ashok as well, or Phil as well, the barriers have been lowered, but in fact, your homegrown industries are competing even stronger than ever. And that's what new entrants to the market have to think about, is their competition on the ground from the local companies. Very, very important point, I would say, for sure.
And just let me add on top of that one important point, actually. The homegrown concept are not home projects which they came up during the COVID. They are there for the last few years, but they've been proving themselves actually, and they've been growing. And today we have a good platform of homegrown concepts where they prove themselves and they're competing with international brands. And we're really proud of them.
Understand. Ashok, there's one question here I want to get in from the audience before I do a wrap up. It's for you. It says, how did Al-Tire handle the restrictions from the central bank on purchases of vehicles for retail and fleet funding? Is that something you can answer?
Certainly. So when it comes to retail funding, you know, a lot of customers go to the banks to get financing, and we are totally compliant with whatever the central bank rules are, amount they are funding. So, but we do have a full F&I panel, and we work closely with panel banks to help with this. On the fleet side of the business, we did find that this part of the business was more impacted in the initial part of the pandemic, but they have been picking up. The reasons for that are more than the central bank. It's companies have been cutting some of their capex budgets, initially at least. And also with the reduction in the number of tourists coming into the country, there was the fleet business, the rent-a-car business, wasn't as buoyant as it was in the previously. So as far as the government and the banks go, I think there was a lot of support. And for us, it was there was no difference when it came to funding of retail sales or financing of retail sales by the banks.
Gents, thank you very, very much. This has been a fascinating panel. I've learned a lot. I think our audience has learned a lot. As I've said, we are going to have it on tape, on YouTube, and on our website for others to listen in. Underscores what I thought was the case, that the UAE retail sector is incredibly resilient and positioned to pivot and continue moving forward post-COVID. Just a quick headline from the United States. The Dow surged this morning when it opened a few minutes ago, close to 2,000 points on news of course, of our election from the weekend, but also on the Pfizer vaccine that is now looking like it's 99% effective in dealing with COVID. So again, this is what the market and customers and consumers are looking for sure. And we hope that going forward we will come out of this this COVID world into a new post-COVID reality very, very quickly. So thank you for helping us this morning and this afternoon in the UAE understand where you are. I just want to point out that the Business Council will host a webinar on the power of women in finance, featuring leading female executives in the American and Emirati financial sector on Monday, November 16th. And on Monday, November 23rd, we are hosting a webinar with some of our key law firm partners and political commentators on the post-election outcome in the United States and what it means in particular for the UAE and the Gulf. So again, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your inputs and your contributions, and we look forward to seeing you soon on the ground for coffee at a mall at Majid Al-Futain in the UAE. How's that?
In your Ford car.
You're most welcome.
In my Ford car. Gentlemen, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.